Good morning. Today we're going to calculate population estimation. So before you start, you need to make sure you have a population that you already have counted, or this is not going to work. So the formula to estimate a population is N, which is the total population, so capital N, and then little n is our sample population. Big M is our total marked. And little m is our sample marked. This will be our smallest number. And this will be our biggest number. All of the screws in this dish is our total population. That's what we're trying to find out. We already know that it's 100 plus 15. But that's just because we're trying to learn. We don't know our sample population yet. We haven't taken it. But we do know the total marked. We put in the earlier video, we put in 15 flat screws. They're different than the pointy ones. So we know that one. So now we're going to take a sample out of this population. So I'm going to take a sample and I'm going to put it on this dish. So now I'm going to count all my screws. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Wow. 20 sharp screws and 2 flat screws. So my sample population is the sharp screws plus the flat screws. And my sample marked is just the flat screws. So then, in this particular example, N, we don't know, we're trying to find out. Big M, we do know, because we put 15 flat screws into our population earlier. Little n, our sample, was 20 plus 2, 22. And little m is just those two. Now we can put this into our formula. So our formula is big N over big M equals little n over little m. So the idea here is that the ratio of flat screws to pointy screws in this little sample equals the ratio of flat screws to pointy screws in our whole population. That's what the equation is saying, that the ratio of flat to pointy is the same here as it is here. We're hoping anyway. That's the idea. So then we plug in our numbers. We don't know what n is, so we're going to leave it like that. We know what m is. We know what little n is, and we know what little m is. Now another way to do this is to get this n by itself. So we can do that by moving this m to the other side. So if we multiply both sides by big M, these two cancel out. And we get n equals It's another way of looking at it. So now we can plug the numbers into here. N equals 22 times 15 over 2, which, if we do our cross multiplication here, this formula to get that n by itself, we need to multiply both sides by 15, which is n over 15 times 15 equals 22 times 15 over 2. And then these two cancel out. Looks pretty the same. Same formula. So n equals, now we need to calculate what 22 times 15 is. 330 over 2, which is the same as this. This is the same formula at this point. And 330 divided by 2 equals 165. Now we know what n is. We counted them all. Our actual n equals 115. That's not the same. So this is why we call it population estimation. And we would never try to estimate the population with one sample. What we would do is we would take another sample and another sample and another sample, and we would do this math over and over again, and then take an average. And what we find when we take an average is we get really close to the true number. And when I do this in class, when I just do 1, we get pretty far from the true answer. But then when the whole class calculates from the same population, so we'll take a sample, count it, put it back, take another sample, count it, put it back, we end up getting a number that's very, very close to our actual number. So the more times I did this, I could take an average, and then I would be pretty close to my true population. So I'm going to do this again, just to practice. N equals, that's what we're trying to find out, big M equals 15. It's the same set. So we're trying to find little n and little m is what we want to find right now. So we're taking a sample. We have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 sharp screws and 3 flat screws. 15 and 3. So 15 plus 3, and only 3 of them are the flat screws. So now when we do our math, n over m equals n over m, or if you prefer, n equals n times m over m. It ends up being the same either way. This time we got n equals 90. Our actual n is 115. So we're a little bit closer, but we're still not there. What if we took the average of n equals 90 and n equals 165? If we add those up, divide by 2, 127.5. Well, that's a little bit closer to 115. Let's do it again. So now we have 2 of the flat screws. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. Oh wow, that must be like about a handful for me. 15 plus 2. So n equals, we don't know, m equals, oh, m equals 15. That's how many flat screws we put in there total. N equals 15 plus 2, and m equals 2. So n over m equals n over m. (15 plus 2, 17 times 15 divided by 2. (255 divided by 2). N equals 127.5. Well, that's still not 115. But what if we do our average again? N equals 127.5 plus 90 plus 165. 382.5. Now to get an average, we're going to divide it by 3. And we get 127.5. No way. That's kind of neat. So we're still not at our total of 115, but we're getting closer. And every time we do this, our average will get closer and closer and closer until we hopefully get a close enough estimation of our population. Okay, go and practice on your own now.